Hi everyone, this is Kelly from The Truth in Story, and I want to talk a little bit about the Blue Messiah reading cards by Rockpool Publishing, published by Rockpool Publishing, but with the artwork and created by Nara Anastasia. Now, right now, you can see I have other decks out because I have this actually mixed with another deck, and I have really been enjoying using these two decks together. And so before I undid them all, I wanted to just talk about that really quickly. So I've had the Cosmic Reading cards for quite some time. I would say certainly over a year. Jen had sent these to me a while ago, and to be honest, I was kind of like, what's this all about? I'd never heard of them. I wasn't probably something that I would have gotten off the shelf, but I absolutely fell in love with this deck. And so this is the backing of the Cosmic cards. And the artwork is really beautiful, and it has sort of a, here's a pile of them, it has sort of a, it's one of my favorite, all-time favorite Mother Earth cards. It's just really gorgeous. It really is beautiful. I have a walkthrough of this, so I'll put a link to that below. It's just beautiful, but then even more so, you know, in the course of using it, and I've used this deck quite a lot, I've just absolutely fallen in love with the Cosmic Reading cards. I use it a lot with clients. I use it a lot for myself. I just use this deck a lot. So recently, Rockpool Publishing actually sent me the Blue Messiah reading cards to review. They are not out, I believe, until September, the beginning of September, but they sent these out for me to look at before it came out, and I was sort of like, Blue Messiah, like what is that even about? But I love Nara Anastasia. I love her work. I love my work with the Cosmic cards. So I had opened this up, I think, on live chat. I don't think this, anyways, it won't matter because when you're watching this, maybe different times, but I had opened it up on live chat and mixed them together with the Cosmic Reading cards and loved it. I actually went through and edged, well, my Cosmic Reading cards are edged in black, and these are the new ones. The Blue Messiah are kind of edged in a purple color. But you'll see, just before, I just wanted to talk about this mixed for a minute because I've been using them this way. And in fact, Nari Anastasia had commented on, I put a video or a picture up on my Instagram of these mixed, and she had commented on the photo that that's what she had intended to do, and I think later on I saw where she had mixed them as well. So I thought that was pretty cool. So hopefully I'll get some of both. So that's the old deck. Nope. Nope. So if I pulled this directly, but you know, this is how I normally pull 3 cards. So let's try that. That's the only thing is, obviously you never know if you're going to get both or if you're going to get all of one or all of another. So, you know, there's no guarantees, but I do feel like they work really beautifully together. And so if I pull, that is one of the new cards, Vibration. That's one of the new cards, Virtual Fog. And this is one of the old cards, Mirrored Souls. So let me just kind of pull some random ones together. That's an old one. But you can see that the font is different on them, but the border is similar. It's got that sort of ragged edge around it. There is more blue, you know, color. This is a much darker, almost blacks and blues on the border, whereas this is much more of a purples and blues on the border. But they go together really, really well, right? There is a feeling about these that I'm trying to just kind of mix some up here. Well, there you go. There's a new one. There's just something about them, you know, that they work well. Obviously, it's the same artist. That's an old one of my favorite cards. This is a beautiful new card. There's a card in the older deck that kind of has a similar feel. So that's old card, new card. Old card. They're just really gorgeous, and together they work really well. I haven't really had a situation in which I've had like the same energy come up because they were two different decks with similar energies. Now, to be fair, I'm often doing either a 3-card, sometimes if I'm doing tarot there may be 2 cards, and then very often I'm just doing a single card pull. And so the chance of it being something that is just so similar that it's not really workable, it is really low. I found these to work gorgeously together, and so I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I wanted to mention the fact that I'm going to separate these off, and I mean this is one of my favorite cards. This is gorgeous. I'm just going to separate these off. I love the Celestial Teacher as well. The new, and this is just me kind of rambling about this while we go through it, but the new one, the Messiah, Blue Messiah reading cards has a little bit more of a star. I love Strength. Has a little bit more of a starseed feel to it. And has more talk about like stars. I love this card in the old deck. It's one of my absolute favorite cards. I love this card in the old deck. I love this card. Visually, I would say there are more of these really dark, gorgeous, not dark in terms of content, but dark, visually dark, that are so gorgeous. But there are also light ones. Like I would have kind of guessed that would have been in the new one. I love this one. It's beautiful. You know, a variety of art styles within the deck. I do really like this one in the new deck. You can see it has that beautiful, almost silhouette feel that I think she does amazing. And anyways, as I was saying, there's a little bit more of, that's what I was thinking of, the Patience card, which I love, from the old deck, has that similar art style feel to it. There's a little more Starseed. I love this one too. See, again, that real dark, I love that. Even that one. So there's a slight, I know I keep getting distracted, right, by the beautiful. There's a little bit more brightness to this, although there's one that's similar to that silhouette feel in the new deck. And some of it could also be from a slightly lighter border. But here, for example, is a Starseed card, and you do get a little more connotations of Starseed in the, certainly in the guidebook and maybe in some of the cards. I don't work with Starseed energy, or it's just not something that resonates with me. However, I've had no issues with this card, and this card has come up for me more than once, and it just really has that idea of that feeling of being connected to something outside of yourself, perhaps not knowing how you're connected, but feeling that connection really strongly. And this card actually works quite well for me, regardless of the, you know, the concept of the Starseed in general. So this is really beautiful. See, those two have similar feelings. Not at all to the, but just the art style. So she definitely has a wide range of styles of her art, but they do work really beautifully together. And obviously sometimes they're much more bold, and in some ways almost like my shamanic healing cards, such as, I think there was one earlier. Some of them, there's not many like this that is a little bit more feeling like a photo manipulation. There aren't very many of those. Those are probably my least favorite, but there's very few of those. And I don't know if there's any in the new deck. Oh, like this with really bold colors, almost like Tony Carmine Salerno feel to them. But it all ends up working as a beautiful whole. I love this Integrity card. Again, that's a one that has that dark, just with silhouettes. I really do, clearly. And the Soul Travel one has that a little bit too. I really love that style, although her really bold colors are also gorgeous. This is a Choices. These are the newer ones. into it. I mean, look at these. And I will say in this, like this kind of feels like my shamanic healing cards, that little deck that I love a lot. But it all ends up working really well together. I'm just making sure. I think these are all like this. I mean, it almost has an Aboriginal feel to it. So she has a really wide palette of how she, and this is probably the only one that I feel, I still like this card is in here, the Shadow Self. It's probably my least favorite because it does not go as well with the rest of the deck, but it's, you know, gorgeous. But these, in the cosmic reading cards, you can see how much I love these really dark, just kind of shadow. This is so stunning of a let go, balance, and then the Mother Earth. These are, I love this style from the cosmic reading cards. So I just wanted to bring this out because A, I intend to put these all back together again and use them together. But B, I wanted to just talk about my experience with this deck because this is probably, again, if I would just have stumbled on this on the shelf and knew nothing about Nari Anastasia, I probably wouldn't have picked this up. It's the keyword Messiah would make me think more like Christian cards of that nature. Blue Messiah, I didn't know what that meant or anything. And so this probably isn't a deck that I would have picked up myself. But because I've had such an amazing experience with this deck, I love this deck. It's one of my probably most used decks, Oracle decks. Outside of my sort of key ones I've already done a video on, I use this deck a lot and I've enjoyed it. So because of that, I would have in a heartbeat picked this deck up because of my experience with the other deck here. So I do really like this backing. I actually like this backing more. This one I've never really liked that much. This one is really beautiful. But I think that you get a feel from the backing and even the darker borders that in some ways this has darker art style. And I don't mean dark as in shadowed, but darker just in tonality. That's really beautiful. Whereas this is maybe a slightly lighter, brighter feel to the artwork here, which is gorgeous in its own right. So I wanted to talk about that real quick as I separated them. Just had a little bit of a ramble as we separate them. This is a Rockpool Publishing. They have the nice little magnetic boxes. I do like, even though it's cardboard on the inside, you know, this is all fairly taped down well. I haven't had cards slide into it, although to be honest, I really haven't had it in this box because I have put them both together into one deck. I really haven't had it much in the deck. I could see perhaps the potential for that just because of the way that it is cardboard, and that will start to perhaps pull away. Perhaps dropping some super glue down there and really gluing that down might be something that I would do just to make sure of that, because it's so irritating when they drop in the bottom. But in all, I really like Rockpool Publishing boxes. They're real nice and compact and yet still giving you a decent size. Beautiful full color is another thing I love, because I can just take this to bed to read, which you know, as I want to kind of get to know it, and I literally have the full size card right there at my disposal. I don't have to go find the card. I don't have to go find the card to kind of look at the coloration and all that. It's just right there. I love that. I think that that's fantastic. The Cosmic Reading card deck was the same way, where you have that beautiful full color, and I just loved it because I would literally just, you know, be able to go to bed and pop this with me and be able to kind of get to know the deck and not have to go find the cards. So loved it, love it. I think that their guidebooks are really well done. And I also find that the amount of information is just enough for me. I don't tend to go back to guidebooks all that often, as you know, especially with Oracle cards. And I will say with the Cosmic Reading cards that I didn't ever really feel like I had to, although sometimes I would, just to kind of see. A lot of times she has quotes, and you'll see if you have the Cosmic reading, which is a deck you can get right now. This one you can't get yet. You'll see how there are sometimes quotes from her, but sometimes other quotes, but there's a quote for every card. And of course, I do love quotes. And so I will very often pop back in if I want to see the quote. She also has affirmations, and she always associates it with the chakras. And so you'll see with this one, you still have that wonderful quote. You have the affirmation here. And you also, again, have the chakra. This one actually has an exercise to do, which I don't believe this one does unless it's kind of worked in. But so that's a little bit different. But it does have the quote, the affirmation, and the associated chakra. And the cosmic does give you sort of a basic idea of each of the chakras and how they might work. She also talks about energy layers and colors, which I love, in the cosmic. And so then in the Blue Messiah, she also talks about chakras, but I love it because I have the other one as well, obviously. She talks, this is a little bit more focused on self-care, and so she talks about fruits and vegetables and crystals that and proteins and things of that nature that would be good to feed those different chakra energies. So I really love that because it just, again, is another layer that adds to information when combined with the other deck. Now in this, let me see if these are the same. So she has a 3-card focus, awareness, and explore. Let's just see if we have new single card. Nope, past, present, and future. And then she has past, present, dominant, and future, where your mind is. So she's got that going on with a 5-card. Focus, nope, this is different. Focus, embrace, awareness, remember, and explore. So she has different spreads than in the cosmic, so I quite like that because I do like to see spreads that are made directly for a deck. I like to try the deck out with those spreads. I've already used this deck quite a bit, but you know, that's okay. So you also have your wonderful easily, of course, these are numbered, so they're really easy to find anyways because the numbers are right there. It's a very easy deck to find in the guidebook. So let's look at the introduction real quick. It says, the Blue Messiah reading cards have been divinely created as a universal heart compass to guide and support humanity through the immense changes and energy shifts occurring presently on Mother Earth. As we move through this unique transitional period, this inspirational oracle will provide clarity and insight to our evolving inner worlds and expanding consciousness. So, comprising of 36 thought-provoking visionary cards, this deck is the evolutionary oracle after the cosmic reading cards, which hold insights and lessons that may assist you to move through the Blue Messiah oracle with greater understanding and ease. She talks about, I'm trying to find it here, because I was like, okay, well, what does Blue Messiah mean? Like, why? What is that? Is this maybe a starseed thing that I just don't know? And so I think what I did when I first got this and thought, you know, what is the Blue Messiah? Is I went to the card, the Blue Messiah card, which is right here. It says, in this divided and changing world, many are searching for truth. Many people believe that their way is the best and only way to salvation. This can cause confusion amongst the masses and uncertainty on their individual paths and belief systems. The Blue Messiah represents the divine light of truth within you. Be discerning. Trust your inner light and truth to guide you. Don't get caught up in the energy fields of judgment, anger, and fear, which may be emitted from souls around you. Shine your radiant, loving light, dear one. It is only through your unconditional love and compassion that dividing walls melt away. This card serves as confirmation that you are on the right path. Don't turn down your radiant light due to comparisons, condemnation, and criticism from others and their egos. Stand your ground with truth, love, and integrity. Avoid comparing or judging the journey and choices of others, and you will align with the divine truth. The Blue Messiah lives within you, dear soul. Shine this truth with unconditional love and compassion. With an open heart and an open mind, share your loving light with the world. And the quote is from Nari herself. The spiritual journey is individual explorations into the light of our own deeper truth. So I really thought that that was beautiful and timely. Let me pull the card out. I should have done that before, but it does have a giant one right on there. And obviously, no, these are not in order because you just saw me pull them out. There it is. So there is the Blue Messiah card. So I thought that this was really timely because this comes with the understanding of understanding that your truth resides within you. You can't look outside of yourself for truth. You can look outside of yourself for inspiration. You can look outside of, well, I think you can, you know, from my personal experience and my personal perception, we can look outside of ourselves for knowledge, for truth, for information, for examples of different ways and different paths. But in the end, we cannot look outside of ourselves to decide what is truth and what is not truth. That is something that we have to do the work to do for ourselves. And so I really love this idea of this card of really going back inward. If you get this card, it's like, don't worry about the confusion of other people, the uncertainty in other people's paths. Don't get caught up in judgment. Don't get up in fear. Get caught up in that. Don't compare your journey to somebody else's journey. Don't take the choices of other people as having anything to do with you. Just go inward. Find your own truth. If you are doing the work to find and know your own truth, you aren't going to be as thrown off by the truths and journeys and judgments of other people. So I think this, and this is of course what the deck is named, the Blue Messiah reading card. So that's why I went to the Blue Messiah cards also on the deck to kind of get that feel for what this particular deck is about. So I definitely think it is one that is made to build up, affirm. It is one to help you go inward and journey through your own processes. There are some shadow cards in here as there were in the other deck, which is something that I appreciate, and especially when you combine the decks. But the overall message of the deck then is that idea of going inward and going through your own journey. And I don't think that means being insular, right? I do believe that I love to experience other people's pathways of all different religions, all different ways of seeing the world, all different ways of processing life. It's something I have been doing since I moved out of a very insular version of a religion. What I have spent my entire adulthood, right, since I was in 21 years old, I have spent researching and looking at and enjoying and seeing the way that other people through a variety of different pathways express their truth. But in the end, we have to sort of take what resonates with truth as ourselves and just let the rest go. And so that is a process that you can only do for yourself. And so I feel like that this then is saying that this deck is something that is going to help in that process of finding and tapping into your own truths, becoming solid and grounded in your own truths, because that makes then navigating the outside world much more easier. So that for me was sort of the key to understanding where is this deck coming from, because the term Blue Messiah didn't really mean anything to me. And so, as I said, there are several cards, and we'll go through them real quick. I'll stop and put these in order. But there are, like the Starseed card. So, for example, this is a good example for me because, again, I don't really work with the energy of starseeds. It's not my path in particular. However, I found this to be extremely positive or extremely powerful card for me because it talks about starseeds, but the way that, and it talks about incarnating on Earth, which you can still feel, even if you haven't decided, even if you don't believe that you may have incarnated from another planet, you can certainly understand that we still make choices, I believe, whether to incarnate at all again, or how we might do that, or what we're going to go through. But it does talk about, I'm trying to find the part that kind of triggered it so that I could use this card. It's just the idea that remembering that you're not alone, remembering that you have many different connections and many different ways in which you are part of something larger. And always that we often have that feeling either that we're very isolated or that we are part of something bigger, but we just don't know it, we don't understand it. And I think that this card speaks to both of those things, that longing to connect, that but that also that understanding where is the way that this body is put with its face in its hands. You do feel in some way out in space where you feel this a little bit imagery wise as if this person feels alone, and yet look at all of these connections, look at all of these ways in which they can't ever really be alone because they are fully connected, and that's something that I do believe. So anyways, I have come to find that even though if you read this, it is very specific about starseed energy, which if you don't know, starseed energy, again, this is in a nutshell because I've not researched starseed very much. I don't know a lot about it, but the basic concept of a starseed is that you are, you know, I do believe in reincarnation, so that's something that is in my worldview. And in starseed, my mindset of reincarnation is that you have, some souls have reincarnated not just over and over again through Earth, but have reincarnated from other planets, and so, or any other solar systems, other planets, others, you know, other places than Earth. And so there are things within that. That's just a very nutshell idea if you don't know what starseeds are. But I don't think that any of the starseed references here at all hamper using this deck if you do not work with starseed energy. So, because I don't, and I have no problems using this deck or the cosmic reading cards. So that's just a little bit of a look at the beautiful book and the basic concept of the Blue Messiah behind it. So let me pause this in wonderful internet speed fashion and put these in order, and we'll look through them. So here we are again. There are 36 cards, and I'm just going to look through these here. I love the mask imagery with the keyword authenticity. This idea of releasing fears and being able to just be authentic in your sense. She uses a quote by Brené Brown that says, "Authenticity is a daily practice of letting go of who we think we're supposed to be and embracing who we are." I just love that. So I really love the quotes in these decks. So that's unfortunately going to show up a lot. I'll say that quite a bit. I do also love this idea of the blue flame. You have this beautiful henge of crystals, which I love because I have a fire and ice henge that I love to use with a large one in the middle of it. So I don't think this is the same. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I have 8 fire and ice crystals and then a large one in the middle. And so I love that. It says, as an exercise, see yourself surrounded in a circle of giant clear quartz crystal pillars. Sure, I'm happy to do that. In the center of the circle stand a tall, clear quartz colored pillar, and within it a blue light. So it's the idea of kind of visualization exercise. But the point of this is to connect us to our true self, to connect ourselves to our divine nature. So sometimes when cards like this come up where the title itself doesn't really give me a feeling of what the card is supposed to mean. So for example, Blue Flame, if you don't look at the book, you're at first not going to be able to be really sure. But for me, there is a sense of clarity with the idea of blue and the clear crystals. I really associate power and clarity with quartz crystals. And also, if you do like art history and things of that nature, and you often think about blue, the color blue often shows up with the divine feminine, with images, dresses and robes that you might see Mary in. And so even without looking at it, I do have that sense of divinity and that sense of clarity. So I could work with that energy and then kind of look at this idea of be clear about who you are, right? You've already gotten a lot of lessons and insights the deck talks about. You've passed tests. You've already done so much, and embrace that strength and that light and that sense of the divine, that sense of namaste. I see the divine in you kind of concept that I think is really beautiful. And it's something that, again, I think you can work with on many different levels. For me, I have had this card come up, and it really was that sense of really seeing clearly where you've came from and how you've gotten to where you are in a strong way. And it's really been, it was a powerful, it came out in a really powerful way in a reading. Blue Messiah card, I think we have covered that one really well. Again, it's that idea of having your spiritual journey be an individual path, and that you are responsible for kind of locating and understanding and coming to terms with your own truths. You can't really give that over to somebody else. Blue Star, again, I feel like I'm going to keep some out just so I can see. I feel like this deck versus the cosmic reading might have a few more, where just looking at the concept of the blue star doesn't speak very much to me just in terms of blue star, but this card itself speaks to me very similar to the star card, right? That idea of trusting that you're going to navigate to where you need to navigate to, and that is kind of what this is about. It's about but it navigates you back inward, which I think the star card in tarot is also a lot like that as well. I love this conscious words card, this idea of words being so empowering or being so disempowering, that the use of words is such a powerful thing, and that we have to be mindful, right? We have to pay attention to the words that come out of our mouths. We have to be responsible for the things that we say. We have to be responsible for understanding on how they may affect the people who are hearing them. But words are very powerful, and we need to be conscious and deliberate and careful about how we use them. I think that's an extremely powerful card. The Creative Spark, I mean, that's just a gorgeous card full of color, and of course it speaks of creativity. That idea of sparking that sense of creativity. How are we going to manifest that sense of creativity that we all have? We may not all be painters or writers, but we all have creativity, and how are we going to work with that creative spark? So I love that. We have this energetic shield here, and this is beautiful. I mean, this is that understanding that, you know, we can pick up on other people's energy, and to be careful about that, and that we should all be being authentic, and authentically ourselves does not mean that we can't also be careful and have shields in which we are not just kind of taking on all kinds of energy from other people. I love this quote here: when we send love in response to hate, we become spiritual alchemists. Now, it doesn't mean that I think that there's never a time to have strong words and to stand up and have that sort of holy feeling of justice and these types of things. But I do think that in general, it's just quite, it's important to understand that energy is a two-way street. We put energy out, we take energy in. And so being careful about the energy that we're taking in is very important as well. So that's an important card to have come up. And then in return of that is this idea of energy exchange. Consciously or unconsciously, we can actually exchange energy. There's all kinds of exchanges of energies that can come up, where a reading for somebody is an exchange of energy, where I might be giving somebody a reading, and then exchange they're giving sometimes money, sometimes trading something. There's an exchange in that sense. That's a very deliberate sense. But there can be friendships, which are exchange of energies. Relationships are exchange of energies. There's many different ways. And again, a lot of this deck, I think, is about being mindful of those energy exchange. Be mindful of the words that we're giving out. Be mindful of the words that we're allowing to affect us coming in. Be mindful that we're not sucking up too much energy that we don't even realize that that's just not good for us, and or being an energy suck, right? Where we could be draining somebody else energetically basically, because we're just kind of taking and taking and taking and not having an equal energy exchange. So I really appreciate that about this deck, because it's a lot about this idea of energy and how that might move. Evolution, of course, this is that a movement upward, right? We have that sense of nothing happens. I'm just reading these quotes because I love them. Nothing happens until the pain of remaining the same outweighs the pain of change. So it talks about personal evolution. It's not always easy, and it sometimes comes in stages, and it can be difficult, but obviously it's what we're all attempting to do in this life, right? Is to grow and move and change and expand and evolve. I love this faith card. I think this is really beautiful. A, I think the image is gorgeous. And B, I just like the idea of having a faith card. And that sometimes we just have to trust. I love this at the end that she says, you were born to fly, dear one. By stepping out of your comfort zone and letting go of what was, you live your life to its full creative potential. Have faith and live your life fearlessly. Now, this is a very supportive deck. So you'll see that there are words, a tone in Nari's writing, such as calling people dear one and things of that nature. But one of the things that I love about this is, while it is very much that energy of support and affirmation that you get in many oracle decks, I don't find that it goes to the degree in which I find it's like way too sugary, and it's like, ugh, like, please, you know, step back from the sugar, right? I don't feel that with this deck. I feel really, and I've also watched her on her Instagram channel and things like that, and you don't get that sense at all, or I don't get that sense of sugar-coated sweetness. I get that sense of somebody who is really connected and is really caring about the people that she's touching with her work, and that is really goes deep into the energy at the same time of being affirmative and supportive. So I think that that's something I wanted to point out. But I think this is a beautiful card to have. This was interesting to have a card such as the False God, as again there are shadow cards both in the cosmic energy cards and as well as in this Blue Messiah deck, and some of them are you know, two-way, like I'll say the conscious words. In one way, it's telling you to be conscious of your words. Understand that words can have power and can be destructive, but they can also be empowering. So this kind of works both ways, right? But it still acknowledges that there are, or the energy shield acknowledges that you can really suck up energy that you may not even be attending to, and take on energy from others that is really negative and can have a negative effect on you if you need to pay attention to that. But it can also just be a reminder, you know, check your shields. You should have a healthy degree of being aware of what the energy is around you. So they're ones that you can see that acknowledge that there are both sides, light and shadow. And then there are some that I would say are more straight up shadow cards, where you have like this false god. Now what's interesting is that the false god, she even talks about how most people associate the idea of false gods with the worship of statues and these kinds of things, right? But she's talking about the false god that's within us, and she's talking more about the idea of ego. So for example, she writes, the ego is a self-constructed identity that is made up of who you think you are, based on your beliefs from your individual life experiences. It is that part of you that does not want to let go of lower vibrational thinking patterns. The ego is a conflicting voice that you sometimes hear when wishing to follow your heart. And so she goes on to talk about that. So the false god here is the voice of the ego, or it could also be the voice, and this has come up for me in a reading, is that voice of negative thinking and negative talk about self. That idea that we sometimes don't afford ourselves the same level of compassion that we afford to others. And so that still quiet voice isn't the good still quiet voice that you read about in the Bible as being the voice of God, but is this false voice that is telling us things that we would never say to somebody else. And so I think that this can be quite powerful, even though at first I was kind of like, what am I supposed to do with that, right? I love that there is a Joseph Campbell quote: "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasures that you seek." I love it. Love it, love it, love it. Don't be afraid to move into things, even though if it's a little bit frightening. Again, we want to have a healthy dose of fear to not go where we shouldn't. But sometimes it just means we need to enter because there be dragons in the beautiful sense of the word, that there'll be treasures. So I do love that. Here we have Heart Compass. This is, of course, that idea of following your heart. You know, let your heart be your guide. Have a little bit more faith and trust in your heart to guide you, which I think is beautiful. Here we have Inner Alchemy, this idea of, again, transformation, but it is a transmutation and alchemy that's going on internally. And she talks a lot about, in this particular card, about the shadows of the self and sort of transmuting that into something that puts you closer to light. It moves you out of the shadows, and not shadows in a sense of, I think shadows are beautiful and powerful, but more in that sense of a shadow self and things that need to be healed. That you can have this alchemical reaction into yourself where you can transmute those into strength and power. Here we have the Inner Vision card. I will say in terms, I don't really think of these decks in terms of male and female, because very often they are either, you do get female shapes, so there's certainly a lot of female energy, but then some of them are quite, a lot of her cards, I feel, a lot of her artwork is not really gendered, you know what I'm saying? I feel like it is rather gender neutral, where, you know, it really could be either way, and so I quite like that. You do get female form and female figures where you kind of have that sense, but a lot of the cards for me are artwork style wise are quite gender neutral. This has a very has more of a traditional masculine feel to it, which is beautiful. Inner Visions, she has a quote by Carl Jung: "Your visions will become clear only when you look into your heart. Who looks inside awakens." So you first have that looking into the cave for the treasures with Mr. Joseph Campbell, and then you have looking inward to be able to awaken. A lot of this energy of this deck is towards inner awakening, is towards finding inner truth, is towards inner healing, so that you can have that transformation, that evolution. This is certainly the theme in this deck. And again, here we have more of a masculine feel to it, but it's so a strong sense of that powerful life force that is within everybody. It's just completely morphing, changing energy, but it's not something that gets depleted. I think that's a really powerful card. We have that life purpose. I love this because it's that idea, you know, when you drop paint in the water and that nucleus pops up. I have my child card. This reminds me of my child card in my Lenormand deck, which a lot of people are like, what is this? This is, she gets it. She understands. So I do think it's really beautiful. But it is that sense of purpose. That spark and that moment of what your life purpose might be. Not everybody believes in a life purpose, but I do believe in a greater life path that we're on in some way. So this, I can work with that. Here we have a card for magnetism, and this is talking about the energy that keeps the universe in a state of constant creative motion is the same energy you hold within yourself. Like a magnet, you attract into your life everything that corresponds to your thoughts and emotions. If you have drawn this card, pay attention to what you are attracting. So that's interesting, right? So as the one was, what are you absorbing energetically? And this is, okay, what are you putting out that is also coming back? Now, we have had this conversation a lot on this channel and on other people's channels about this idea of, you know, if you put good things out, you're only going to get good things back. If bad things are happening to you, it's because you're putting bad energy out. And I think if you've watched my channel long enough, you know that I find that if you take this idea of the law of attraction to a far degree, it becomes extremely victimizing and has serious problems. But however, saying that, I do believe that the best way to have sort of higher energy and positive energy coming to you is by putting that outward. I do believe that if we walk around like Eeyore, everything is going to, at least if nothing else, look depressing and dark and shadowed, right? So while I don't believe that, you know, as long as you do good things, only good things are going to happen to you, I don't believe that, nor do I believe that all bad things happen because of, you know, we've caused it to happen. But I do believe that we will have the greater chance for attracting positivity when we are putting that energy out, and that when we put out a lot of dark energy consistently, that is going to, if nothing else, make the bubble that we create around ourselves to be so unclear, that we see everything through that lens. So I do think this is an important card, just to say, okay, what are you putting out there? What are the intentions, perhaps subconsciously or unsubconsciously, that you're putting out there, and how might that affect the energy that you have coming back? So I do think there's a way to work with that concept without taking it to extremes. Meditation, I love that. It's just kind of like go back to center, like take a breath, go back into center, take a step back. It's Four of Swords, just take a breath for a moment. So I love that card. Love this beautiful image here on nature's wisdom. Again, just get your feet in the soil, right? Get outside. I think Patrick calls it earthing. You know, roll around on the roll around in the grass. Sit with your back up against a tree, right? Get out there in nature and feel nature and connect with nature. I think it's beautiful. Perfectionism. So this is really asking you, in this particular card, is asking you to really see who you are, your vulnerabilities, your imperfection, letting go of the notion that you, again, there's a couple cards, but they do come at it differently, where it's like letting go of what you think you're supposed to be, or what other people think you're supposed to be, or what you think you're supposed to be, and really come to and accept yourself as you are. It doesn't mean that we can't want to strive to become better and to work on things, but you can't do that until you at least accept where you're at, and then you can start stepping forward. So I quite like that. Again, that's a bit of a shadow card. Here we have planetary shifts. This has got a quote from Jimi Hendrix. When the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. So this is talking about living in a transitionary world in which there are a lot of uncertainties, which she talks about at the beginning. And part of the point of this deck is understanding that we're in a transition period, and kind of having to see those planetary shifts and kind of learn to work with those shifts to kind of realign things. Here we have the rainbow body. Says the rainbow body plays a big role in the evolution of human consciousness. It is humanity's highest ideal to achieve this light body state. Because she does work with the ideas of light bodies. Again, you see some of that in her cosmic cards. And she talks a lot about chakras and energy centers and these kinds of things. I love this though here. Dance with the wind of change and energize your body with your breath, dear soul. Charge your light with the energy particles from the sun and take steps to move away from all that distracts you from this final quantum leap of consciousness. But I do love this idea. For me, this card is just that idea of really opening yourself up to energy and dance and movement, and sort of physically expressing energy. Here we have the Sacred Union. This is uniting with unconditional love and trust in something or someone, which is really beautiful. And I love, again, this is we have these two forms coming together as very gender neutral. It's just that understanding that there are these moments in which we can really connect with, open ourselves up and trusting to be able to connect with somebody at a level that can be an extremely powerful experience. Self-love, I think that's rather self-explanatory. It talks a lot about the idea of love, but then obviously having to point that at yourself is one of the most difficult things. And I do think the concept of self-love, or the is really something that you hear maybe to an over degree of, you know, I'm going to go get my nails done, an act of self-love. And it's not saying that getting your nails done isn't an act of self-love, because sometimes you just need to stop and pamper yourself. But I do think some degrees you see a little bit more in the social context where the self-love is starting to get that idea of pampering versus as really extending the compassion, extending the empathy, extending the grace that you would give to somebody else, and but not extending that to yourself. So and for me, the work of self-love is in extending that same compassion and empathy and grace for yourself, which I think is really beautiful and difficult. Here we have soul travel. Again, this has to do with actual the idea of journeying, which you see with in shamanic traditions and many other traditions, which I think is beautiful. But it's a reminder that you have gifts of vision and insight. So you don't have to actually be someone who does journey work. If this card comes up, though, it is that idea of really listening to your own insights and your own intuition and your own inner things that you have at your disposal. Soul tribe is sort of explanatory, attracting the people or bringing the people around you that that you mesh with, that works with you, that supports you, that you can support each other with. Soul vessel, a lot of soul kind of terms here. But this is paying attention to your body, right? Your body is the vessel of your soul. Again, some of these things to me, even as myself, because I'm quite a practical person in some ways, and I think, okay, you know, why don't you just say body instead of soul? That's like, it sounds a little like woo, a little woo-woo-y for me, right? But it's the truth that our bodies are our soul vessel, and I am certainly very, very I can't think of the word, a term I'm trying to say, but I'm very much one who has not taken care of my soul vessel, right? Who has much to accomplish. I have in huge chunks of my life, but there's also been big chunks of my life in which I have not. And so I do think that that is something that's important. This is what holds your body, or holds your soul, and you need to have your body being cared for in a way that allows your soul to shine. So as while on one hand I say, okay, it's a little bit woo-y, that it's truth. It's the truth that our bodies contain our souls and we should be taking better care of them. And sometimes you need to hear that. So I certainly do. So I think that that's, you know, again, I think it would be a disservice to write this off as being too affirmative or too kind of out there in the cosmic vibe of things, a little too new agey, so to speak, because I feel, well, just from my own experience with the cosmic reading cards and this deck as I've used it, there's a lot more, there's a lot of depth there that I think is quite powerful. I love this sound healing. You know, there's a lovely person on, I don't think she makes YouTube videos anymore, so I guess I won't mention her channel. I want to say she might have taken her channel down, although she does have Instagram. I really like her, some of her videos that she used to do, but she works with sound healing. I think that's where she's kind of going to focus in on this idea of sound healing. I think that Tarot Map on YouTube, she also does work with sound. Probably Pathways and Possibilities does work with sound. I do a little bit of work with sound in terms of drumming, and I do have a couple of the you know, where you have the metal tubes that you could ring like a clear note, or you think about meditation bowls that you can get humming and things of that nature. I do think that sound is extremely powerful, because I think that I just know for myself, especially with drumming, for me it's all about that vibration, which she talks about here. So I think that this is beautiful. And the quote here is, "He who knows the secret of the sound knows the mystery of the whole universe." We talked about the Starseed card. Here we have the Visionary. The visions that pull on your heartstring may not always be easy to carry, especially in an environment that does not support or nurture your visionary path. Have faith. Do not allow doubt or limiting beliefs to hold you back from your visions and what you want to accomplish. Tree of Life, a very different Tree of Life that I love. Tree of Life imagery. This is obviously a much more cosmic sort of Tree of Life, but it is that same idea, right? It is still this ladder of upper branches, trunk, and roots that is just pervasive in many different cultures and many different ways of seeing things as this ladder. And so I love that this is here, even in this very more cosmic style deck, that this energy is here. I think this is beautiful, this trust. Like, I feel like she's going to do that teamwork thing where she's going to fall backwards and trust that somebody's going to catch her. But it's so beautiful. Love it. Vibration. Again, now, so this will be interesting. Let's take a look at this because they're close together. So we have this idea of sound healing, which talks a lot about vibration. I want to see what these two, because people have asked us, one of the things people have asked is whether, you just have sort of repeating the same energy. So let's take a look at this. So vibration says, everything in the universe vibrates at different frequencies. These vibrations separate you from the unseen realms of your life. But the higher your vibration, the closer your connection to those other dimensions which support your evolving nature. Your vibrational state is what determines your way of life, whether it's low or high. You attract vibrational frequencies that match your state of being. Remember, your vibration is influenced by your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and how well you take care of the soul's vessel. When we are in alignment with your soul, you are continually nourished by spirit and life flows with ease and harmony. So obviously, if your vibration level is, that makes sense. Again, I think you have to be careful not to take that to a high degree, but it's true. When you're physically not taking care, I know I'm physically not where I should be at, and that does have an impact on everything around me and within me. So I definitely can agree to that. But I want to see what's the difference between that and soul healing. So if I got this card, which is going to remind me to set my vibrations at an energy that is in alignment with what I want it to be in alignment with. Whereas when I get the sound healing, this is staying conscious of what you absorb energetically. Feed your body with sounds that heal, inspire you. A simple act of switching to soul-stirring music can work wonders, which is so incredibly true. By absorbing healing sounds, you become more aware of your connective nature and one with all. So this is actually sort of resetting your frequency for healing, and it's so true. If you put on certain types of, for me it's classical music, even movie soundtracks that are just really beautiful. That I have a couple soundtracks that I've had forever that very much just the tones and the vibrations and the sounds, just you can start to feel your whole body just react and relax. So this is more understanding the way that you're connected, and this is a card that would come up when you need to do some healing work. So I do think that those could be seen separately. So then that brings us to the virtual fog. Talking about all kinds of electronic things are all around us, and to be careful of how much we can get into a fog with virtual things. This whole idea people have of sort of taking social media breaks, knowing when you have simply, sorry, it's not centered, knowing when you are just in this fog of technology and social media and things of that nature, to the degree in which you're just walking around in a fog, thumb scrolling your way through things. We all have, I think, in this world that we live in, times in which we really need to step out of the virtual fog. So I think that's a good card to have in there in a modern deck. And then this beautiful card of willpower, which I think kind of speaks to its own self. I love the quote. It's an unknown quote that says, "The tallest oak in the forest was once just a tiny net that held its ground." So I think it's beautiful. And again, in terms of practice, because I don't do a lot of large spreads with oracles, I tend to be doing, I've done a tarot reading and then I'm going to pull a particular card. So for example, I think I showed this in the last one. I think both of these decks look beautiful with the Star Tarot. Alright, so very often I might have pulled 3 cards, say, where I've done a reading with 3 cards, within without advice, which is starting in July, something along that nature, where I pulled that, and then I might pull, we'll take that one, so then I might pull 2 cards, having trust and faith here, trusting in yourself that you're going to guide yourself back, and digging into nature. Look how beautifully that goes with the star. I really do love this deck with the star. So, it's usually in conjunction with a reading such as that, or say, for example, a lot of times I've just done a regular, again, a full tarot reading, where I'm just going to grab a chunk here and do my typical reading, and then maybe instead of, I have to pull this up. Sorry, I'm trying not to take up too much time, but I just want to show you, typically this is how I work with Oracle. So then I might, do a reading such as this, and get some different ones, and then I might pull, and I got these upside down, sorry. And I might pull a card on either side. It might be a strength or weakness. It might be a do or a don't, something of that nature. So it's usually in conjunction with a reading. Look how gorgeous that is. I really do think I'll be using these 2 decks, 3 decks, I guess, a lot together. So very often it's like that. And if I am doing using an Oracle deck by itself, it's almost always a 3-card reading. Let's see, what was the one in here? The focus, number 1. The focus is the card, indicates what you need to focus on. Card 2 is awareness, what you need to be currently aware of. And card 3 is something that you need to explore further. You could also, I like the idea of, was it focus? First one? Yeah, focus. So you could actually do that and then pull, again, tarot cards underneath it or something. So I do tend to mix mine. So here we have this idea of the sacred union. So this is something that you need to focus on right now, really being able to connect at a deep level, perhaps with another person or another situation, if it's situational. And then the second card here, and then let me just grab the other one. I've got these probably all whopper-jawed. So in this reading, the second card here is awareness, something you need to be aware of. I need to be aware of my own willpower. I need to be aware of the power that resides within me, which is very beautiful. But then I have to further explore trusting. These are beautiful cards together, because this idea of being in a sacred union and really connecting with somebody does require that you kind of have your own power. You don't lose yourself in someone else. So you're firmly grounded in your own power, but then you also have to trust and reach out and connect to another human being. That's a beautiful set of cards right there. I think that really speaks. It's just beautiful. So anyways, there you have it. I just wanted to give you a quick look at this deck. Again, this particular, the Blue Messiah, is not, from what I understand, at least in the United States, this is not going to be out until September. They just sent it to me to take a look at, but I still wanted to, while I had used it, I know this is a little bit far away, I did want to at least bring it up because I've been using it and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. And I will put a link to the cosmic reading cards, which are I've had for a while, and have those so you can take a look at these as well. But I've just had a great experience using these together, and so I thought I'd go ahead and talk about them even though they're not out yet. So Please no hate to that. They will be eventually out, so if there's something that appeals to you. So I hope that you've enjoyed this. I think that these decks are ones, especially the Cosmic Reading cards, which I've worked a lot with, are reminders that decks that may not seem like the kind of deck that you would use, it doesn't necessarily mean that they aren't going to be a deck that's going to be just right for you to use, which is certainly, I think, what Nari Anastasia has taught to me, along with some other decks. So there you have it. I hope you have a wonderful day.